Hello there everyone, and welcome back to the neighborhood. Today, we're looking at the Harmonic Dyne Athena, thanks to Linsol. The Athena is a $179 headphone that's taking the world by storm. Let's get into it. The Athena is largely a plastic build, but somehow feels sturdier than the Harmonic Dynes that I looked at before, with wood and metal incorporated into those builds. The only metal that I noticed in the build of these were the slider mechanism of the headband and some screws that hold everything together. The 3.5mm connection jacks at the base of each ear cup are also obviously made out of metal. A large, cloth-covered pad cushions the head below the headband, and this doesn't appear to be memory foam, but it was comfortable nevertheless. The pads might be memory foam. However, instead of cloth covered, they are covered in what appears to be a faux suede material, which might get a bit hot in a non-cooled environment. Even so, I live in a desert, and the pads ultimately added to the comfort in my air-conditioned room. I'll also note that there was plenty of space within the pads for my average size ears. From looking at other reviews prior to receiving these, I was worried that these might be on-ears. But they most assuredly are over-ears, and I think there will be more than enough room for most wearers. The clamp was also very comfortable and neither too intense nor too slack. With regard to the cups, these are semi-closed backed, as they have a solid backing to the cups, but small vents around the lower edges of the cups and a larger vent on the top edge. As a result, these basically have open back performance with regard to sound coming in and out of them. So I don't love the isolation here. But if you're listening primarily in a solitary listening environment, then you won't mind this. Positively, the cups have a large rotation to their swivel and lay flat on a desk when swiveled away from the listener. Even so, they won't lay flat if swiveled in the other direction, however. In terms of their weight, they're neither too hefty nor light in their construction. Still, they weigh much more than the Thea Audio Ghost that I recently reviewed, but weigh a bit less than the Beyerdynamic DT177X Go. The weight advertised is only 320 grams, but they do feel a bit bulky on the head, almost like a ZMF. The cable is also a wee bit bulky, especially with its metal hardware in mind, but it does match the weight and somewhat clunky feel of this headphone overall. A 1/4 inch to 3.5mm adapter is included, but it terminates in a 3.5mm jack and initiates in two dual-pole 3.5mm plugs. The weave is nice, and the material almost feels paracord-like, but it's not, I'm sure. Its Y-split is well done, and it remains free from tangles with repetitive use. A cable tie is also provided to help with portable use, as is a velvet bag, but not a hard case, which could have been a nice addition. So the sound. Well, first of all, these require an absurd amount of break-in. Out of the box, they were a bit loose and bloomy in the low end for me. I went so far as to swap the pads to Brainwave sheepskin rounds, and I enjoyed the sound much more. However, before finalizing my thoughts, I swapped back to the stock pads after a few weeks of play and decided they had come around, and now sounded great as well. The bass had evened out, was less diffuse, and any bleed was mostly gone. Timbre is warm, rather lush, somewhat dark, and its note weight is both thickened and heavy. Yet, many aspects of the sound still cut through well. For a closed-back headphone, the stage is also decently large and exceeds expectations. Resolution and clarity isn't top-end in terms of its performance, but it does scale notably well. I mean, they are $179. These peaked with their sound capabilities when driven off the Tron Antares, but also sounded excellent off the Heidi's DH80S. For under $300, the pairing with the latter was a notable value proposition, and I enjoyed it immensely. The stage of this pairing was simply something else, and large and vast in its dimension. And even though these are only listed at 34 ohms, they also performed well off my Dark Voice 336 OTL. I've been experimenting with different tubes on my Dark Voice as of late, and the Hytron 6SN7 and GE6G SA7 were excellent tubes in combination with the Athena. But let's get into the sound profile, because although I enjoyed the Athena and think that it's not only stupendous fun and a tremendous value, it's also not without its faults. The bass relies more on a sub-bass push than anything else. General bass definition could be better, and I could deal with a bit more presence from the upper bass regions as well. The descriptors soft and squishy come to mind to describe the low-end performance of the Athena. The mid-range is a bit of a mixed bag as well. Generally speaking, the mid-range cuts through well despite its moody character, but the lower mid-range performance was not up to task on certain tracks. Bands like Van Halen highlighted a notable reduction on guitar parts that are normally front and center in a number of their songs. Male vocalists also could suffer at times and were not as representative in the mix as female counterparts. Even so, tracks that did not rely as much on early mid-range presence performed admirably well on the Athena. The treble is best described as relaxed but extended. There isn't a ton of air here, but there's enough for anyone that isn't a treble head. There's also some noticeable dips after 8K and beyond, but I mostly found the treble well represented enough without venturing into any harshness, intensity, or sibilance. Overall, I think the Athena is a winner. It's my favorite headphone to have come out of Harmonic Dyne yet. Priced at only around $179, these are a steal and a must-have for almost any headphone collector. Its presentation is musical, unique, warm, romantic, enjoyable, and inviting. They sound excellent off almost any source, and they scale well too. Just make sure you break them in for at least a few weeks before making up your mind about them. The Harmonic Dyne Athena is sold exclusively by Linsol, and I'm certainly happy that they support this channel and were able to send one over for this review. Links to purchase the Athena and find the channel at all of the Neighborhood Access locations will be provided in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching. I really appreciate the support. And with that, I'm out for now.